Welcome to another episode of Step Into My Office. Thank you for coming back to listen to me again. I just want to let everybody know, yes, I am coming live from my office today, or actually recording from my office. And there may be a humming sound in the background again. I heard that last time on the comments. The reason why there's a humming in the background is there's a small server back there that helps power some of the computers we have in this building and some of the systems we have going. Not too long ago, I had an IT guy come through here, and I asked him because up until this recording, it was like white noise to me. I had never heard it before. And I asked him, I said, hey, why does this thing hum? You know, I've never noticed it, but why does it hum? Very straight faced, he turned around, looked at me, and said, because it doesn't know the words. Yep. So I stopped asking those kind of questions and just let him go on his way. So hopefully I can get rid of some of that humming in the background, guys. But please, hopefully you can bypass that if I can and just listen to my smooth, silky voice and the content I'm going to be delivering today. So let me start off today by letting you know that today's episode will be on the group Rush, the rock group Rush. The rock group Rush was very, very, very big for me in the mid to late 80s. Actually, let me step back a little bit. In actually the late 70s through the mid 80s. One of the first unique rock bands I had heard, you know, there was the Jimi Hendrix, there was a Led Zeppelin around there, but something about the sound of Rush really, really stuck with me. So it was really big for me. The band is Geddy Lee, Neil Peart, and Peart, and Alex Lifeson. They came over to the U.S. in 1974. Unfortunately for me, I didn't catch on to them probably till about 77, 78, till I started hearing their music, or at least was more aware of their music. The band was outstanding. In the early 80s, they actually got a little notoriety for Neil Peart and Geddy Lee because they did, with a popular comedy team, did a song called Take Off, which was Bob and Doug McKenzie. Geddy sang a little bit on it, and Neil played the drums in the background. Kind of give them a U.S. notoriety, and actually more like a national or universal more notoriety because some people had heard of Rush but really didn't know Geddy's voice or Geddy's sound. Geddy and Neil were the actual standouts that most casual fans knew. Geddy, it was more for his unique sound of his voice, his bass playing, his keyboarding. He was very good, very captivating. Neil definitely was there because of not only his lyric ability to write, but his drum sets. His drum sets were probably like about two or more drums put together in a circle, which he sat on a swivel chair and during a live concert would play almost every piece he had around him. It's definitely a sight to see. You can go on YouTube and find it. Man, it is outstanding. You get a little closer view, but live, wow, it's one of those things that stuck with me. One of the person that's left out of this group is Alex Lifeson. To the casual fans, most people didn't know him, even though he was the solid guitar behind some incredible work playing there. He was a very top guitarist back in that day. The problem you had is back then, you know, he had competition of a Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, a hot up-and-comer in the early 80s of Eddie Van Halen. You had Jeff Beck. You know, Alex was as good as all of them. He just didn't get the notoriety he did because, I'm not sure, because the other two stood out so much, especially Neil Peart. I first got into the Rush in the late 70s, as I said. Fly By Night, Lakeside Park, were the first two songs that really got to hear and stood by me. Another one was, and it will always be my all-time favorite, is Trees. Trees was a very, very, very good song. I like that very much. Very unique for that time. First album I had from them was 2112 Live. Back at that time, if you were anybody who was into Rush, 2112 Live is what you had to have because it had the album cover. Actually, it was almost like a book. It opened up and it had all these live pictures in it, and the Pentagon on it with the guy in there, and I mean it was really decked out. It was the coolest album at that time made. So it was something to have. Later on, the next album I had that I loved almost as much was Moving Pictures. Moving Pictures is still my favorite album overall, just because the songs, and I guess because at that time, actually get to seeing them live during that particular album as opposed to when 2112 first came out. My first Rush concert was actually in February of 1980. It was the Permanent Waves tour. First taste of Rush. Really liked it, really enjoyed it, was really great. One of those groups you saw live and you said, man, I'm going back next time they come around. Sure enough, March of 1981, they had 2 nights there. I went to both nights. That was so good. That was the Moving Picture tour. That's, again, my favorite album. That, I think, is why I went 2 nights in a row. Back in the day, it was Rush and Sammy Hagar were your only two true bands that could sell out more than one night in a row, that you had people wanting to see them live, and they could sell it out. So, as you knew, right now, that was a hot ticket. And for me to have 2 nights in a row, I'm not sure really how I did that, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. That was outstanding. The last time in that era that I actually went to go see them live was 82. 82 brought on the Signals album. Signals album, I did own it. It was pretty unique. The songs were alright. They didn't quite click with me. So I wasn't sure. I knew I was going to see the concert only because, they'll play some of the new songs, but a lot of the old songs will be in there, and that's what I was there for. I was there for the whole real show, not so much the newer album or songs. And I really, the album didn't quite turn me completely off of Rush, but from there I kind of backed down a little bit because it was back then you're thinking, oh, they jumped a shark or something and they're going in a whole other direction because they made several albums afterwards. I just didn't pay attention to them. It wasn't until about a few years later when for some reason I started listening to that album over again when I really, truly, truly started to appreciate it. The sound they had, I don't know if it was just something about, I was fighting it or what the story was. I just didn't care for it. And which is sad because, as you heard me say, Trees is one of my favorite ones of the Rush songs, and it is the most unique song they have, especially back then. It wasn't a true rock and roller song. It was a little bit of a heavy song, but it also had some light stuff in the beginning. If you ever get a chance and you haven't listened to Trees by Rush, please do. That is, again, one of my favorites. But afterwards, I kind of stepped away. Still my favorite group. Still listen to the old stuff when I had a chance. I just didn't follow them as much or go to concerts. At that point, I just kind of felt that they were, I don't know what the direction they were going, so I didn't pay attention. I still like them. As my children were coming up and going, my wife and I have been very, very fortunate to have good children that like some of the music we have, and we've shared as much as we can with them. So in 2010, an opportunity arose to go see Rush. It was their Time Machine tour, and I was shocked both of my kids wanted to go. It was one of the best concerts I have ever been to. Rush played for about 3 hours. They did not have a warm-up band. They did take roughly about a half-hour break in there, half-hour to an hour break. But you didn't notice it. It wasn't like, you're like, oh man, is this ever going to end? Outstanding from start to end. My children both loved it. It was one of those things I could actually share, and it's a blessing. It's truly a great thing. The only thing my son told me a few years later is that he really wishes we would have gone back because they played what was called the Sabbath Center at that time. They came back to play an indoor show, as opposed to the one we went to see was an outdoor at an amphitheater. But yeah, that was kind of the sad part on that. Um, Rush, it's a great group. They will always hold a special place in my heart and a special time in my life. Reason why I'm doing this one is because of the recent passing of Neil Peart in early February. Kind of quiet, kind of sudden, kind of quickly, at least for the casual fan, because we weren't, in the know. It saddened me because where I missed that opportunity, like my son said, and we can't see them live again, at least we did get to see them, and for me, at least I did get to pass this on to my children. So which is something I hope they always appreciate and really like. It was a really, really special day. They'll always be in my heart when they play. And they are actually part of my daily life now. In the morning when I work or during the day, I have a regular playlist. And mixed in that playlist is some Rush. There is Closer to the Heart, Distant Early Warning, Free Will, In the Mood, Limelight, New World Man, Red Barchetta, Spirit of the Radio, Subdivisions, Tom Sawyer, Working Man, and of course Trees. Where they may not be playing back to back or consistently, you can pretty much figure every third song is a Rush song. So that's how much it still affects my life, and that's how much I really, really enjoy their music. And I'd like to take a moment here to say thank you to Rush for that music and those memories. Thank you very, very much. So that's going to pretty much wrap up my end from the Rush story. Like I said, we ended in 2010. I actually got to pass this along, and I'm very grateful for it. If you like this episode, please click the like button down below. If you want to hear more content as I get a little more enthralled in this over the next few months, please subscribe. And also, I welcome any comments. Last time I got some good comments. One of them was the humming one that I mentioned at the beginning. Another one was when it was on the pizzas. I got a couple recommendations. Hey, how come you didn't list this person? Or have you thought about trying this person? Those are the kind of things I want to do, because if I decide to do a follow-up podcast, especially on something like pizza or anything else, even with Rush, you guys may have another favorite song that I forgot about or need to listen to, because it may be one of those ones I've missed either in the past or just currently just forgot about it. But yeah, please leave me your comments. Thank you again for listening, and thank you for listening to another episode of Step Into My Office.